Well, the tragedy in Tumbler Ridge is all too familiar on the other side of the country, where another community is still feeling the devastation of a mass shooting almost 6 years ago. In 2020, a gunman went on a rampage, beginning in Portapique, Nova Scotia. He killed 22 people in the province, and 15 of those victims were in Colchester, the county where Portapique is located. So, what can Canada learn from that community about the path through tragedy? Joining me now, Blair is the mayor of Colchester County, Nova Scotia. Blair, it's good to meet you. Thank you for your time today.
You're welcome.
As we were getting the details of what was happening in Tumbler Ridge, it must have been all too familiar for you. I mean, what was your reaction as you heard what was unfolding?
Another surreal situation, one that we never want to hear about again. We didn't think that we would be having so many of these incidents, but now here we are again, facing something that is so tragic and so profound for the whole community. It will affect the whole community, and our condolences from the municipality of Colchester go out to the families, to the community, and of Tumbler Ridge following yesterday's tragic events. We understand the close-knit nature of our rural communities. Portapique had 120 people. We lost 10% of the population that night in Portapique alone, with 13 people and another 2 in a close-by community of Debert. So it's, and our neighboring communities of Cumberland County and East Hants totaled the 22, and one of the victims was pregnant. So it's, we understand what you're going through this evening. It will be surreal, and it will be surreal for a while. But eventually, the reality will be faced, as difficult as that is,
Yeah,
it's really.
No, it's how do you deal with something like this, right? I mean, there's similarities in the tragedies, but each one is its own unique set of traumas and losses, and you know, and leadership and government and support services have to help as best they can. So, in this acute phase, Mayor, if we can just focus on this for a second, this immediate aftermath. Based on the awful experience that your communities went through, I mean, what is your sense of what Tumbler Ridge is going to need in the immediate hours and days ahead now that the security situation has been resolved?
As much support as possible. And our municipality gave that as much as we could to the communities. We wanted to be supportive without being intrusive in the private lives of the individuals. And that's what we did. I called an emergency meeting of our council on the Monday following the weekend tragedies, but it wasn't until the following Tuesday that we actually knew the number of victims that were lost in that shooting. So we did what we could. One of the things that we did, we completely demolished the home of the perpetrator, of the shooter, and leveled the ground, and it is now a grassy lawn. So we took away the reminder of where this individual actually was. That's simply one thing that we did. But we were there as much as we possibly could to support our residents, to support the people who were the most directly affected, fully recognizing that our whole community was affected.
The challenge is in 2 parts, right? There's the immediate surge of support to deal with the acute tragedy in the moment. But I wonder about that, what comes next, the sustaining of the support, because you've spoken about the lack of support over time for people struggling with the trauma. 2 years after the shootings, one of the survivors, Leon Jowdry, I believe, I'm pronouncing that right, died by suicide, right? So what's your sense of what needs to change there in terms of the supports being sustained for a longer period of time?
We need continuing support, not just something. Right now, you have there are people that are coming in from victim services and from and to support families to give you as much support as can possibly be, but that is something that needs to stay. You need to have something that is consistent. In my opinion, you need to have trauma therapists that are available in the community on a regular basis for years to come. And this is something that people actually need. We do have supports in our province. We have mental health supports. We have various types of supports that are there. But what we need is something that my suggestion was that we have trauma therapists in the field that would meet with people in 3 different communities on a regular basis, week by week, so that people knew they were there and they knew they could come in and speak with them. Because history has shown us from other events, and this is exactly what's happening with us, is that you do have the effects over time. You will see more intimate partner violence. You will see more addictions, attempted suicides. And we have had 3 suicides in the last 6 years. One in April of 2024, the day before the anniversary of the mass shooting. So very very difficult situation for our communities. And when you hear more things like this happening, and I mean, with our youth, our succession, our future, our youth, it makes it harder to bear, and it breaks your heart to know that what the people of Tumbler Ridge are going through right now.
No, I mean, the casualty rate continued to grow years after the shooting had stopped. And you talk about the impact on youth. That's especially critical here, given that it happened in a school. And
Yes.
the majority of the victims range in age from 11 to 13. And their
Yes.
classmates saw all of these things. So I know you talked about the need to have trauma professionals in the community. What's your sense of how long that would need to be sustained? Because, you know, fixing a broken bone, stitching up a wound, you have a sense of time, but like a wounded soul is a more difficult thing to diagnose. I mean, were you talking a year, 2 years in perpetuity? What would your recommendation on something like that be, Mayor?
I'm not a professional in the field. But what I can tell you is that you need to have consistent long-term care that people will be able to access. And a phone number and dropping by an office somewhere out of town. I think you need to have people in the field, in the communities to help.
One of the lessons, the very hard lessons that was learned from the tragedy in your community was more disclosure, better communication, more transparency.
Yes.
What did you make of what you saw from the RCMP in the last 24 hours in British Columbia? There was a briefing last night where high-level details were given, not tremendous amount of specifics, but the reassurance that it was under control and the security situation was resolved was there. And today, a fairly expansive update from the Deputy Commissioner. How do you rate what you saw from the RCMP years after your tragedy?
I would be inclined to say that the way the RCMP has responded would be very comforting to the people in the community, recognizing the quick response, recognizing the people who were the first responders and were there for them. That's huge. We had first responders there. We had boots on the ground. What we didn't have were alerts. The alerting system left a lot to be desired, and that was a problem. You did have alerts, and that is significant. Since then, of course, since the Nova Scotia shootings, the mass shooting. We have had a lot of work done through the Mass Casualty Commission and through the Progress Monitoring Committee that is monitoring the recommendations of the Mass Casualty Commission. And there's been a significant amount of work done to rectify and to meet the recommendations of the Mass Casualty Commission. That committee is still an ongoing thing, and I think that we have come a long way since then. We saw that with the James Cree Nation incident, where the alerts were very prevalent, and now we're seeing it here. But the response to Tumbler Ridge, the professionalism of the RCMP, and the way that they have handled this, I feel is excellent.
Well, Christine Blair, that's an encouraging thing to hear, because there were obviously problems, but if there's no growth and no improvement and no reform out of the tragedy like your communities went through, then it compounds it. And as difficult as this is, it is good to hear from someone in a position of leadership who led through that difficult time, seeing that lessons were learned and that changes got made.
Yes. Well, the RCMP, the RCMP officers and the first responders that had boots on the ground, they were exceptional. They walked into a hell that no one could ever imagine on that night. So I have nothing but respect for what they have done. But there were some things that, as you say, absolutely needed to be fixed, and we're working on that. That is still being worked on.
Christine Blair.
We've come a long way.
Well, Christine Blair, Mayor of Colchester County, Nova Scotia, it was lovely to meet you. Thank you for your insight on this, and I hope the lesson of the long-term supports is learned in Tumbler Ridge, so they can get the help they need. Thank you so much for your time today.
And again, my condolences.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Blair.